The stars glimmered against the void of space, indifferent to the political tensions brewing beneath them. Lieutenant Kara Charm Holden gazed out the viewport of the Terran Confederation scout ship, Vigilant, taking in the barren landscape of Archon 7 below. The dusty, rust-colored planet looked harmless from orbit, but she knew better. Somewhere on that desolate surface was a Zalnor Federation forward base, a potential powder keg in the already strained relations between the two galactic powers. Thinking deep thoughts, Charm. The voice of Sergeant Malik Reyes broke through her contemplation. He floated towards her in the low gravity of the observation deck, his dark eyes reflecting the starlight. Kara's lips curled into the easy smile that had earned her nickname. "Just wondering what kind of welcome party the Zalnor have planned for us. Probably something with too many tentacles and not enough alcohol," Malik quipped, securing himself to a handhold beside her. Their banter masked the gravity of their mission. After a series of border skirmishes in the Taurus Reach diplomatic channels between the Terran Confederation and the Zalnor Federation had frayed to the breaking point. The Vigilant had been dispatched on what Command euphemistically called a goodwill mission, in reality, a high-stakes reconnaissance operation disguised as diplomatic outreach. "Lieutenant Holden to the bridge," came the captain's voice over the intercom, interrupting their moment of levity. "Preparing for atmospheric entry." As they made their way to the bridge, Kara felt the familiar pre-mission butterflies in her stomach. At 32, she was one of the Confederation's most experienced scout officers with 7 years of frontline service. Yet the Zalnor remained something of an enigma to Terran intelligence, a technologically advanced species that had emerged onto the galactic stage only 30 years prior, rapidly expanding their influence through superior weaponry and ruthless efficiency. "Status report," she requested, slipping into her command seat on the bridge. "Zalnor base has acknowledged our approach and transmitted landing coordinates," replied Ensign Torres from the communication station. "They've also sent a request." "Let's hear it." "They specifically asked that you lead the diplomatic team, Lieutenant. They mentioned your reputation as being characteristically Terran, whatever that means." Kara and Malik exchanged glances. Being singled out was rarely a good sign. "Well," Kara said, fastening her harness as the ship began its descent, "looks like my charm precedes me." The Vigilant breached Archon 7's thin atmosphere, buffeted by electromagnetic sandstorms that the planet was notorious for. The vessel's shields hummed as they dispersed the charged particles, creating an eerie aurora around the hull. "Atmospheric composition within expected parameters," reported the science officer. "Gravity 1.2 standard. Temperature at landing zone 42 degrees Celsius." Kara grimaced. Hot, dusty, and slightly heavier than Earth normal. Not ideal conditions for a diplomatic mission that could determine the course of interstellar relations. As the ship settled onto the landing pad with a muted thud, Kara caught her first glimpse of the Zalnor base through the forward viewports, a sprawling complex of gunmetal gray structures, angular and utilitarian, with intermittent force field barriers shimmering in the heat. Massive defensive turrets tracked their descent, a not-so-subtle reminder of the precarious nature of their visit. "Quite the welcome wagon," Malik muttered, checking his sidearm discreetly. "Remember, we're here as diplomats first," Kara reminded her team, though she too ensured her standard-issue blaster was secure in its holster. "Let's not give them any excuses." The landing ramp extended with a hydraulic hiss, and hot, dry air flooded the airlock. Kara led the small diplomatic contingent herself, Malik, 2 junior officers, and the ship's political attaché down onto Archon 7's surface. A delegation of Zalnor awaited them. The aliens stood nearly 7 feet tall, their exoskeletal bodies gleaming with a metallic blue luster under the harsh sunlight. Their 4 arms were positioned asymmetrically around their torsos, and their facial features were dominated by compound eyes that reflected the landing party in countless, tiny facets. The lead Zalnor stepped forward, its mandibles clicking, in what Kara had learned was their equivalent of formal greeting. "Lieutenant Kara Holden." It said, the translator unit, at its throat, rendering its chittering speech into smooth, accentless standard. "I am Colonel Vardek Thol, commander of this outpost. Your reputation as a charming representative of your species has reached even our distant corner of the galaxy." There was something in the way Thal emphasized charming that set Kara's instincts on edge, but she maintained her diplomatic smile. "Colonel Thal, on behalf of the Terran Confederation, we appreciate your hospitality." She performed the Terran diplomatic bow, carefully calculated to show respect without submission. Thal's compound eyes glittered. "Hospitality is a concept we find intriguing about your species. Always so concerned with pleasantries. Come, we have prepared appropriate accommodations." As they were escorted through the base, Kara surreptitiously cataloged its defenses, automated sentry guns, security checkpoints, patrol patterns. Years of training had made such observation second nature, enabling her to maintain diplomatic chatter while gathering intelligence. The interior of the base was as austere as its exterior, functional to the point of severity, with little concession to comfort or aesthetics. The air had a metallic tang that the Terran's environmental filters couldn't quite neutralize. "Your timing is fortuitous," Thal remarked, as they entered what appeared to be a conference facility. "We are conducting a weapons demonstration for several of our military officials. Perhaps you would care to observe. It might provide valuable context for our discussions." The invitation wasn't really an invitation at all, Kara knew. It was the first move in whatever game the Zalnor were playing. "We would be honored," she replied, matching Thal's tone precisely. The conference room contained a large holographic display table, surrounded by several high-ranking Zalnor officials. Their chittering fell silent as the Terran delegation entered, compound eyes swiveling to focus on the newcomers. "Our Terran guests," Thal announced, "here to witness the superiority of Zalnor military technology." One of the Zalnor, wearing ornate armor that marked it as a fleet admiral, moved closer to Kara, examining her with unconcealed curiosity. "So this is the famous Charm Holden," it said, circling her like a predator. "When we intercepted your communications, I expected someone more imposing." Kara maintained her pleasant expression, though internally, her alert level elevated several notches. Intercepted communications. The Zalnor weren't even trying to hide their espionage. "Appearances can be deceiving, Admiral," she replied smoothly. "Indeed," the Admiral chittered a sound Kara recognized as their version of laughter. "That is what fascinates us about Terrans. So charming, so diplomatic, so devoted to words rather than action. It is almost endearing, like watching a child play at adult matters." The barb was calculated to provoke, but Kara had faced worse in diplomatic settings. She simply widened her smile. "We find that words can often accomplish what force cannot." "A philosophy of the weak," another Zalnor official interjected. Colonel Thal raised a limb for silence. "Let us show our guests what real power looks like." He activated the holographic display, which flickered to life with an image of a massive tank-like vehicle bristling with weaponry. The XF-9 Devastator, the newest addition to our armored divisions. 62 tons of unstoppable force armed with particle cannons capable of vaporizing bunkers and armor impervious to your Confederation's most advanced weaponry. The hologram rotated, showcasing the vehicle from all angles. It was indeed impressive, a behemoth of war technology that made Terran battle tanks look like antiques. "Quite a machine," Kara acknowledged, studying the specifications that scrolled alongside the image. "Not merely a machine," Lieutenant Thal corrected. "It is the future of warfare. A single battalion of these could secure an entire contested system." "Perhaps you would like to see it in person," the Admiral suggested, mandibles twitching in what Kara was beginning to recognize as anticipation. "We have several prototype units in our testing facility." The offer was another thinly veiled directive, and Kara sensed the trap closing around them. Whatever the Zalnor were planning, it centered on this demonstration. "We would be delighted," she responded, glancing at Malik, who gave an imperceptible nod. He sensed it too. As they were led deeper into the complex, the security presence intensified. Automated drones hovered at intersections, scanning everyone who passed, and armed guards stood at regular intervals, their weapons powered, but not yet aimed. "Your security is impressive," Kara remarked to Thal, probing for information. "Necessary precautions," the colonel replied dismissively. "The electromagnetic storms interfere with long-range sensors, making this planet ideal for sensitive operations." They entered a massive hangar bay that stretched at least a kilometer in length. Rows of the XF-9 Devastators lined the walls, while maintenance crews swarmed over them like insects. The scale of the operation was staggering. This wasn't a demonstration facility. It was a staging area for an invasion force. Kara's heart rate accelerated, but she kept her expression neutral. This information was exactly what the Confederation needed, but extracting it, and themselves, would be the true challenge. "Impressive, isn't it?" Thal gestured expansively. "Each unit can operate autonomously, or as part of a battle network. We've eliminated the need for organic pilots entirely." "Automation has its advantages," Kara agreed, though Terran military doctrine still values the intuition of human operators. This earned another round of chittering laughter from the Zalnar officials. "Intuition," the Admiral scoffed. "A quaint concept. Data and processing power are what win wars, Lieutenant. Your Terran intuition is merely a romanticized term for inefficient decision-making." Kara maintained her diplomatic smile, but her eyes hardened slightly. "Perhaps a demonstration would help us appreciate the XF-9's capabilities more fully." "Of course," Thal motioned them toward a sealed door at the far end of the hangar. "We've prepared a special demonstration, one that will truly illustrate the difference between our approaches." The door slid open to reveal not another hangar, but what appeared to be a testing arena, a vast open space with various terrain features, obstacles, and target drones. Several XF-9 tanks were positioned around the perimeter weapon systems, humming with standby power. "This facility allows us to simulate various combat scenarios," Thal explained, leading them to an elevated observation platform. "Today, we've prepared something special, a direct comparison between Zalnar and Terran combat effectiveness." Kara's instincts screamed danger. "I wasn't aware we had provided combat units for testing." Thal's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of amusement. "Oh, you misunderstand, Lieutenant. You and your team are the Terran combat units." Before Kara could respond, force field barriers sprang up around the observation platform, separating the Terran delegation from their Zalnar hosts. Simultaneously, the platform began to descend into the arena below. "What is the meaning of this?" Kara demanded, her diplomatic veneer falling away. Thal's voice came through speakers in the platform. "A simple test, Lieutenant. Your Terran Confederation prides itself on adaptability and resourcefulness. We wish to measure these qualities against our technology. Consider it a practical extension of our diplomatic exchange." The platform locked into place at the arena floor. Kara and her team were now effectively trapped within the testing ground, with XF-9 tanks positioned at strategic points around them. "This is a violation of diplomatic protocol," Kara called out, knowing the protest was futile, but needing to make it nonetheless. "Protocol is for equals, Lieutenant," came the Admiral's voice. "We are simply establishing the hierarchy of our future relationship. The terms are simple: survive the next hour against our automated combat systems, and we will release you and your ship. Fail, and well, it will be valuable data regardless." Malik moved closer to Kara, speaking in a hushed tone. "Orders, Lieutenant." Kara assessed their situation with cold precision. 4 Terrans with standard sidearms against multiple heavy assault vehicles in a controlled environment. The odds were beyond unfavorable. They were suicidal. "They want a show," she murmured to her team. "So, we'll give them one. Disperse, use cover, and look for weaknesses. Terran standard evasion pattern." "Beginning combat simulation in 30 seconds, announced Thal's voice. "You may use any means at your disposal. We've even provided some appropriate obstacles for you to hide behind." Kara noticed that the arena had been mockingly designed with human-sized barriers and trenches deliberately inadequate against the firepower of the XF-9s. "Kara," Malik said quietly, "is this a good time to mention that experimental thing you've been working on with Dr. Lin?" She gave him a sharp look. "That's classified, Sergeant." "So is getting executed in a Zalnor testing facility," he retorted. "Simulation commencing," declared Thal's voice, followed by the ominous whir of the XF-9's weapon systems coming online. "Scatter," Kara ordered, and the Terran team split in 4 directions as the first volley of energy blasts carved smoking craters into the ground where they had stood. Kara dove behind a barricade, wincing as the impact jarred her bones. The gravity of Archon 7 made every movement more taxing, every impact more painful. She drew her blaster, knowing it would be practically useless against the tank's armor, but unwilling to surrender without a fight. The arena descended into chaos as the XF-9s advanced, methodically coordinating their fire to eliminate escape routes. The Terrans were forced into an increasingly tight perimeter, communicating through hand signals and brief tactical bursts over their secure comms. "They're toying with us," Ensign Torres gasped as she slid into cover beside Kara, a blast having singed her uniform sleeve. "They could have finished this already." "Which means this isn't about killing us quickly," Kara replied, her mind racing. "It's about humiliation, psychological warfare." From the observation platform above, Colonel Thal watched with detached interest as the humans scurried from cover to cover, occasionally firing their pathetic handheld weapons at the impervious tanks. "Fascinating," he commented to the Admiral. "They continue to resist despite the futility. Is this the famous Terran stubbornness we've heard so much about?" "More likely simple biological panic," the Admiral replied dismissively. "Prey instinct." Below, Kara was formulating a desperate plan. She'd noticed that the XF-9s, for all their technological superiority, followed predictable targeting algorithms. They prioritized targets in open spaces, then those in partial cover, methodically working down a threat hierarchy. "I need a distraction," she told Torres. "Something to confuse their targeting systems." Torres reached into her pocket and produced a small package. "Emergency ration bar." Kara's eyes lit up. "Perfect." She took the foil-wrapped bar and broke it into pieces. The metallic wrapper should reflect their scanning frequencies. It won't last long, but it might create enough sensor ghosts to buy us some time. She distributed pieces of the foil to each team member through quick hand signals. "On my mark, throw these in different directions, then move opposite. The electromagnetic interference from the storms should amplify the effect." The team nodded, understanding the desperate gambit. Now, they launched the foil scraps high into the air, where they caught the howling wind and scattered in a glittering cloud. Immediately, the XF-9's targeting systems began tracking the multiple reflective contacts, momentarily confused by the sudden proliferation of potential targets. In that brief window of distraction, Kara made her move not away from the tanks, but directly toward the nearest one. It was a counterintuitive tactic that might just work. The targeting systems would be programmed to expect retreat, not advance. She sprinted across the open ground, her muscles screaming against the increased gravity, and slid beneath the massive XF-9. Its sensors, designed to track targets at combat distances, had a blind spot directly beneath the chassis, a flaw she'd noticed in the technical specifications displayed earlier. "What is she doing?" Thal demanded, leaning forward as Kara disappeared from sensors beneath one of the tanks. "Probably seeking shelter," the Admiral replied, though uncertainty had crept into its voice. "The tank will simply roll over her position." Indeed, the XF-9's propulsion systems engaged with a deep rumble, preparing to crush the Terran beneath its massive weight. But in that moment, Kara made her decision. The classified project she and Dr. Asha Lin had been developing, a genetic enhancement program that allowed certain Terrans to temporarily access enormous physical strength by triggering dormant genes, had never been field-tested. The side effects were unpredictable, the duration inconsistent. But it was their only chance. Kara activated the gene trigger, implanted beneath her skin, feeling the immediate rush of energy flood her system. Her vision sharpened, her muscles tensed as molecular changes cascaded through her body. "For the Confederation," she whispered, then braced herself against the underside of the 62-ton war machine. And pushed. The observing Zalnor officers watched in disbelief as the XF-9 began to tilt its massive bulk, shifting upward as if being lifted by some invisible force. The tank's stabilizers whined in protest, its internal gyroscopes fighting to maintain equilibrium. "Impossible," breathed Thal. With a final surge of superhuman effort, Kara heaved the tank completely onto its side, exposing its vulnerable undercarriage. The crash reverberated throughout the arena, briefly silencing even the ongoing weapons fire. Taking advantage of the momentary shock, Malik fired a precision shot into the tank's exposed power coupling, causing it to shut down with a whine of failing systems. The remaining XF-9s paused their advance, their targeting systems reassessing the unexpected threat. This hesitation provided just enough time for Kara to emerge from beneath the overturned tank, her uniform torn and her face streaked with sweat and grime, but her eyes blazing with determination. "Target the primary Terran," Thal barked into the command system, his composure fracturing. "Maximum firepower." 3 XF-9s swiveled in unison, their main cannons charging with lethal energy. Kara stood her ground, the gene enhancement still coursing through her system, calculating odds and distances. As the tanks fired, she moved with preternatural speed, dodging the first blast, and using the shockwave from its impact to launch herself toward the second tank. Landing atop its upper hull, she drove her fist into its main sensor array, the enhanced strength of her blow, crushing delicate components designed to withstand enemy fire, but not direct physical impact. The tank's automated systems, suddenly blinded, began firing randomly, inadvertently striking one of its companions. The damaged XF-9 retaliated automatically, its friend or foe identification compromised. In the control room, pandemonium erupted as the Zalnor officers watched their perfect demonstration devolve into chaos. "Shut down all units," Thal commanded. "Emergency override." But the electromagnetic interference from Archon 7's atmosphere, combined with the damage to the tank's communication systems, prevented the override signal from reaching all units. 2 more XF-9s began exchanging fire, their advanced targeting systems turned against each other. Malik and the rest of the team seized the opportunity, targeting exposed joints and sensor arrays with precision shots from their blasters. What had been a hopeless last stand was transforming into something unprecedented, a Terran victory against overwhelming odds. Kara, still riding the wave of genetic enhancement, leapt from the disabled tank toward another advancing unit. Her body was beginning to protest the strain, warning signals of pain flaring across her nervous system, but she pushed through it. Gripping the tank's main cannon, she wrenched it off its mounting with a screech of tearing metal, then used the severed weapon as a makeshift club against the tank's propulsion system. The Zalnor officers watched in horror as their supposedly invincible war machines were systematically dismantled by what they had dismissed as a merely charming Terran officer. "What is she?" demanded the Admiral, mandibles clicking in agitation. "The future of warfare," Thal replied grimly, echoing his earlier boast about the XF-9s. "But not as we imagined it." In the arena below, the tide had definitively turned. With 4 tanks disabled, and the remainder caught in a cycle of targeting errors and friendly fire, the Terran team had achieved the impossible survival against what should have been certain death. Kara, feeling the enhancement beginning to fade, made one final spectacular demonstration. Approaching the largest intact XF-9, she positioned herself at its front, planted her feet firmly, and with a roar of effort that seemed to channel the collective defiance of humanity, lifted the entire tank overhead. The image was striking a single Terran, silhouetted against the dust and smoke of battle, holding aloft a war machine designed to crush entire armies. She held the position for several heartbeats, letting the message sink in before bringing the tank crashing down onto its side. "Enough!" Thal's voice boomed through the arena speakers. "Stand down, all units cease fire immediately." The remaining operational tanks powered down their weapon systems, leaving an eerie silence broken only by the crackle of electrical fires and the groan of twisted metal. Kara stood amid the devastation chest, heaving with exertion, the genetic enhancement receding and leaving her muscles trembling with fatigue. Malik and the others converged on her position, forming a protective perimeter, despite their own injuries and exhaustion. Lieutenant Malik queried softly, concern evident in his voice. "I'm operational," she replied, using their old code for "still alive, but barely." "Status of the team." "Minor injuries only," he reported. Torres took a glancing hit to the leg, but the medkit stopped the bleeding. Kara nodded, then raised her voice to address the observation platform. "Colonel Thal, I believe our demonstration is complete. Shall we resume diplomatic discussions?" For a long moment, there was no response. Then the force field barriers around the arena deactivated with a fading hum. "The Terran delegation will be escorted back to their vessel," came Thal's voice, noticeably lacking its earlier condescension. "Further communications will proceed through established channels." "That's not acceptable," Kara called back, summoning her remaining strength to stand tall. "We came for diplomatic negotiations, and diplomatic negotiations we will have. Unless the Zalnor Federation wishes to be known as an entity that violates interstellar protocols and ambushes diplomatic missions." Another pause, longer this time, filled with the distant sound of chittering discussions. "Very well," Thal finally responded. "You will be escorted to the diplomatic chamber. 1 hour to recover, then we will reconvene." As a team of clearly nervous Zalnor security personnel approached to escort them, Malik moved closer to Kara. "That was either the bravest or most foolhardy thing I've ever seen," he murmured. "How are you really feeling?" Kara maintained her composed expression for the benefit of watching eyes, but spoke through gritted teeth. "Like every cell in my body is on fire. Dr. Lin warned about the after effects. I'll need the medical kit from the ship as soon as possible." "Copy that," Malik replied, subtly, adjusting his position to offer support without making it obvious she needed it. "Worth it, though." Despite the pain, Kara's lips curled into a ghost of her trademark smile. "Did you see their faces? Absolutely worth it." The security escort led them through corridors now conspicuously emptier than before. Word of what had happened in the testing arena had clearly spread throughout the base, and the Zalnor personnel they did encounter gave them a wide berth, compound eyes fixed on Kara with what might have been fear or respect, or perhaps both. Back aboard the vigilant doctor, Asha Lin was waiting in the medical bay, her normally calm demeanor fractured by concern, as Kara was helped onto an examination table. "I told you the gene therapy wasn't ready for field testing," the doctor scolded, running a diagnostic scanner over Kara's trembling form. "The molecular restructuring is still unpredictable. You could have suffered complete muscular collapse." "Didn't have much choice," Kara managed through waves of pain. "How bad?" Dr. Lin studied the readouts with a frown. "Extensive microtears throughout your major muscle groups. Elevated stress hormones. Dangerous levels of lactic acid buildup." She reached for a hypospray. "This will help with the immediate symptoms, but you need rest and controlled rehabilitation." "No time," Kara insisted, as the medication brought blessed relief. "Diplomatic meeting in 1 hour. Need to capitalize on psychological advantage." The doctor made a sound of frustration, but continued treatment. "At least let me administer the cellular stabilizers to prevent further deterioration." While Dr. Lin worked, Malik briefed the captain on what had transpired in the testing arena. "They were planning this all along," he concluded. "The whole diplomatic mission was just bait to get us into a controlled environment for their demonstration. And instead, they got a demonstration of their own," the captain mused, glancing toward the medical bay where Kara was being treated. "The question is, what do we do with this advantage?" "Push for concessions," Kara said, emerging from treatment, looking pale but determined, her uniform replaced with a fresh one. They expected to humiliate us and prove Terran inferiority. Instead, they got a very public display of what we're capable of. Their entire command structure witnessed it. The Council will want to know about this development, the captain pointed out. The gene enhancement program was supposed to remain entirely classified. It still can, Kara insisted. As far as the Zalnor know, this could be a natural Terran ability that we've simply kept hidden. The uncertainty will work in our favor. They'll have to recalculate their entire strategic assessment of human capabilities. Precisely 55 minutes after leaving the testing arena, the Terran delegation returned to the diplomatic chamber. Kara led them walking under her own power, despite the lingering pain, her charming smile firmly in place. Colonel Thal and a reduced contingent of Zalnor officials awaited them. The Admiral was conspicuously absent. Lieutenant Holden, Thal, greeted her, his tone now neutral, possibly even respectful. The Zalnor Federation regrets the unorthodox nature of our earlier interaction. The Terran Confederation accepts your apology, Kara replied smoothly, taking a seat at the negotiation table without waiting for invitation. Shall we proceed to substantive discussions? Thal's mandibles clicked softly, a sound Kara now recognized as surprise. Indeed. We have prepared a draft agreement regarding the disputed territories in the Taurus Reach. As the diplomatic proceedings continued, the dynamic had shifted palpably. Where before the Zalnor had been dismissive and condescending, they now treated the Terran representatives with cautious respect. Proposals that would have been deemed unacceptable hours earlier were now considered seriously. By the end of the session, a preliminary framework had been established: border recognition demilitarized zones, and most significantly, mutual technological exchange programs. The latter was particularly telling. The Zalnor had never before been willing to share their advanced technology with species they considered inferior. As the meeting concluded, Thal approached Kara privately. "A word, Lieutenant?" She nodded, maintaining her professional demeanor, despite the fatigue threatening to overwhelm her. "What we witnessed today," Thal said carefully, "has forced a re-evaluation of certain assumptions about Terran capabilities." "Every species has its secrets, Colonel," Kara replied with a non-committal smile. "Indeed." Thal studied her with unreadable compound eyes. "One wonders what other surprises your charming Confederation might have in reserve. Let's hope diplomatic relations improve to the point where such questions become academic rather than practical," she countered smoothly. Thal made the chittering sound that passed for laughter among his kind. But there was a new note to it, something almost like respect. "Well," said Lieutenant, "your ship is cleared for departure whenever you wish." As the Terran delegation prepared to leave, Malik sidled up to Kara on the walk back to the Vigilant. "So, diplomatic mission accomplished?" he asked quietly. "More or less," she replied, maintaining her composed expression until they were safely aboard their ship. Only then, in the privacy of the corridor, did she allow herself to lean against the wall, exhaustion finally claiming its due. "More or less," Malik echoed, offering a supportive arm. "They won't underestimate us again," Kara said, accepting his help toward the medical bay, where Dr. Lin waited with a concerned expression. "That's worth more than any treaty. And the gene enhancement program, once Confederation Command hears about this, they'll either shut it down as too dangerous or accelerate it as too valuable," she finished with a grimace. "Either way, that's tomorrow's problem. Today we survived. We showed the Zalnor that charming doesn't mean harmless." "I'd say lifting a 62-ton tank overhead made that point rather effectively," Malik agreed with a smile. As the Vigilant broke orbit from Archon 7, leaving the dusty planet and its Zalnor base behind, rumors were already spreading throughout the Zalnor Federation, tales of Terrans with impossible strength, of diplomatic officers who could tear apart battle tanks with their bare hands. In the ship's medical bay, Kara endured Dr. Lin's treatments and lectures about reckless field testing with quiet stoicism. "The molecular restructuring could have killed you," the doctor emphasized, administering another round of cellular stabilizers. "The program is still experimental for a reason." "But it worked," Kara pointed out. And now we have valuable data on its combat applications. Dr. Lin scowled. You're not a test subject, Lieutenant. You're a patient. And as your physician, I'm recommending at least 3 weeks of rehabilitation before you even think about activating the enhancement again. Understood, Doctor. Kara's smile returned weak but genuine. Though I don't plan on lifting any more tanks in the immediate future. See that you don't, the doctor replied sternly, though her eyes betrayed concern rather than anger. The human body wasn't designed for such stress enhancement, or no enhancement. Later in her quarters, Kara recorded her official report for Confederation Command. She detailed the diplomatic outcomes and the unexpected test the Zalnor had arranged, but was careful in how she described the gene enhancement's role. Utilized classified capability to neutralize immediate threat. She stated, simply knowing that the secure channels would fill in the gaps. What she didn't include in the official report was her growing concern about the enhancement's implications, not just physically, but ethically. The power it granted was intoxicating, the sensation of invincibility, seductive. Where was the line between enhancement and transformation? Between humanity and something else entirely? These were questions for another day. For now, she had helped secure a diplomatic victory that might prevent outright war, and that was enough. A gentle chime announced a visitor at her door. "Enter," she called, setting aside the report. Malik stepped in, carrying a small package. "Thought you might need this after today's excitement." He handed her the package, which she unwrapped to find a replacement emergency ration bar, identical to the one they'd sacrificed for their foil distraction. Kara laughed, the sound genuine and unrehearsed. "Very thoughtful, though I'm not sure I'll ever look at these the same way again." "They're multi-purpose now," Malik agreed, taking a seat across from her. "Food and tactical equipment." They shared a moment of companionable silence, the kind that comes only after facing death together and emerging victorious against the odds. "Command's going to have a field day with this," Malik finally said. "The gene program, the diplomatic breakthrough, all of it." "Let them," Kara replied, setting the ration bar aside. "What matters is that we changed the equation today. The Zalnor thought they were dealing with charming, harmless diplomats. Now they know better." To the charming tank lifter, Malik toasted with an imaginary glass. "May your legend grow with every retelling." Kara rolled her eyes but smiled nonetheless. "Just what I need, a reputation as the Confederation's heavyweight champion." "Better than being known just for your smile," he pointed out. "I suppose," she conceded. "Though I have a feeling Colonel Thal won't be forgetting either, anytime soon." On Archon 7, Colonel Vardek Thal stood before his superiors, via holographic communication explaining the day's unexpected turn of events. The Terran displayed physical capabilities far beyond our intelligence assessments. He reported mandibles twitching with residual shock. Strength sufficient to manipulate our heaviest assault vehicles manually. Could it have been technological assistance? Demanded the Zalnor High Commander. Some form of concealed exoskeleton or field generator? Negative, Thal responded. Our scanners detected no such devices. Whatever this capability is, it appears to be biological in nature. And the diplomatic concessions you agreed to? The High Commander's tone was dangerous. Strategic necessity. Thal defended. Until we understand the full extent of this Terran ability, whether it is unique to Lieutenant Holden or common among their species, direct confrontation would be inadvisable. The High Commander's compound eyes narrowed. Reassess all tactical plans involving Terran forces. If they have been concealing this capability, what else might they be hiding? As the holographic communication ended, Thal gazed out at the stark landscape of Archon 7, his mind replaying the image of a Terran lifting a war machine designed to crush entire battalions. They had called Terrans charming, dismissing their diplomatic skills as mere pleasantries, their smiles as masks for weakness. Now that assessment lay in ruins alongside the wrecked XF-9 tanks. Colonel Thal made a notation in the official Zalnor tactical database. Terran designation updated from minimal physical threat to extreme caution advised. The stars continued their indifferent glimmer above Arcan 7 unchanged by the day's events. But the balance of power in the galaxy had shifted all, because someone had underestimated the Charming One, until she heaved a heavy tank overhead. Aboard the Vigilant. As it accelerated toward the jump point that would take them back to Confederation space, Kara stood at the same viewport, where she had contemplated the mission's beginning. The rust-colored planet dwindled behind them, soon to be just another dot in the vastness of space. "Credit for your thoughts," Malik said, joining her at the viewport. "Just wondering what comes next," she replied absently, rubbing her arm where the gene trigger implant sat beneath her skin. "That's simple," he said with a confident smile. "We continue being underestimated by overconfident aliens, and then we continue surprising them." Kara laughed softly. "Is that the new Terran strategy? Tactical application of exceeded expectations?" "Has a nice ring to it," he agreed. "Better than heave heavy tanks overhead." "I don't know," she mused, watching as Arcan 7 finally disappeared from view. "That one seems to have made quite an impression." The Vigilant jumped to faster-than-light travel, with a flash of energy, carrying home news that would reshape the Confederation's approach to interstellar relations. The age of being merely charming was over. A new chapter in human history had begun, one where the galaxy would learn that Terrans had always been more than just their diplomatic smiles. And it had started with one charming lieutenant, who when pushed to the limit revealed what humanity was truly capable of.